Trump's DC takeover is being justified by lies is worse than even critics expected and might soon spread to a city near you. Why RFK Jr. is now being blamed for the deadly CDC shooting in Atlanta. The WNBA dildo problems exposing the problem with new betting markets. And how you may already be getting manipulated by Chinese AI. We're talking about all of that and even more on today's brand new Philip DeFranco show. You daily dive into the news, starting with this. Donald Trump is liberating America. Again.
This is Liberation Day in DC, and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back.
First, Liberation Day was with the tariffs, and now Donald Trump is promising to make our capital great again by making what he called crime, savagery, filth, and scum disappear. Trump holding what he called the press conference on crime and beautification today, and we'll start with crime.
Our capital city has been overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals, roving mobs of wild youth, drugged out maniacs and homeless people. And we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're not going to take it. Today, we're formally declaring a public safety emergency. This is an emergency. This is a tragic emergency. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control.
And so you had Trump announcing that Attorney General Pam Bondi, who still hasn't released the Epstein files, assuming command of the Metro Police. And the Defense Department, they'll activate some 800 National Guard personnel who will deploy to the streets of DC, which notably is something that Trump has more authority to do since, unlike the state of California, the District of Columbia doesn't control its own National Guard. Also on top of that, Trump reportedly plans to temporarily reassign some 120 FBI agents to nighttime patrol duties in DC. And as for both the National Guard and FBI in general, it's currently unclear exactly what they'll be doing. And that in part because over the weekend, you had sources telling reporters that they probably won't have arrest authorities. Instead, it would be this show of force, and they'd support local police doing stuff like driving around the city and running license plates for stolen vehicles and warrants. But then today, Trump said,
they'll immediately begin massive enforcement operations targeting known gangs, drug dealers, and criminal networks.
And this notably comes after the weekend when Trump reportedly sent up to 450 federal agents to DC already. But with Trump's latest move, you had him arguing,
we will bring in the military if needed. People say, oh, that's so terrible. He's going to bring in. It's been used many times over the years.
And you have critics arguing that using the military for domestic law enforcement is illegal, but Trump already deployed Marines to LA, and he's shown himself willing to ignore the courts on many occasions. And with all that said, before we get ahead of ourselves, as far as what started this whole DC subplot, obviously you have people saying that he's doing anything and everything to distract from Jeffrey Epstein. But also, there was an attempted carjacking and assault of a former Doge staffer known as Big Balls last week. And since then, Trump and his allies have turned this into a story about the supposedly out of control crime that's plaguing DC and other Democratic cities.
Murders in 2023 reached the highest rate probably ever. They say 25 years, but they don't know what that means because it just goes back 25 years.
But it's actually very telling that he picked 2023 there. Because crime, it definitely was especially bad that year, but it's also come down significantly since then. In fact, violent crimes in 2024 reportedly hit a 30-year low, and it's still dropping, reportedly down 26% this year from the same period last year, as property crime's also down 5%, and overall crime, that's down 7%. And so then, what's Donald Trump's response to that data? Fake news.
We don't want to show the real numbers. Let me do numbers so it looks like it's going down. Not going down.
And in fact, Trump claimed that DC is literally the #1 murder capital of the world.
41 per 100,000. Number one that we can find anywhere in the world. Baghdad we doubled up on Baghdad. Panama City, Brasilia, San Jose, Costa Rica, Bogota, Colombia, heavy drugs. Mexico City, I mentioned, Lima, Peru. All double and triple.
But again, that's just not true. DC's homicide rate last year was actually 27.3 per 100,000 people, which is far lower than the world's 10 most dangerous cities, according to an analysis. The thing is, it's not just DC. Crime's been falling all over the country. You've got reports saying that homicides nationwide are down 30%. But that said, of course, crime was only one half of the equation. There's also the beauty. And I guess channeling his inner Wordsworth, Trump delivered this miracle of grammar.
So we have the most beautiful, potentially capital in the world. We always had.
And so like the real estate developer that he is, he wants to make that potential a reality. And he's got lots of ideas.
We're going to clean up the trash and the graffiti and the grime and the dirt and the broken marble panels. We're going to replace the medians that are falling down all over the roads. We're going to replace the potholes. We're going to put a nice new coat of asphalt over the top.
But those things, notably, are not the only way that he's planning to clean up the city, because he also wants to push out the homeless.
We're moving the encampments away, trying to take care of people, getting rid of the people from underpasses and public spaces from all over the city. There are many places that they can go.
Right, with that being in addition to yesterday where he truths the homeless have to move out immediately. We will give you places to stay, but far from the capital. The criminals, you don't have to move out. We're going to put you in jail where you belong. It's all going to happen very fast, just like the border. Now with that, as far as the numbers, DC has a total population of about 700,000, and a local org told Reuters that nearly 3,800 people are homeless on any given night. Right, and most of them, they stay in public housing or emergency shelters, though 800 are considered to be on the street. So it's currently unclear where Trump intends to put those people, and it's also unclear what he meant by this vague comment about getting rid of the slums.
I know it's not politically correct. You'll say, oh, so terrible. No, we're getting rid of the slums where they live.
And as far as what else he might do with federal command over the Capitol, we're gonna have to wait to see, though we did get some hints today. And that because he talked about at least 3 things that, according to him, are responsible for the condition of DC and other Democrat-run cities.
This whole thing with cashless bail is a disaster. This city will no longer be a sanctuary for illegal alien criminals. There are also people that shouldn't be there. They got in there because of woke.
Right, so seemingly, if that's his diagnosis, his cure would be to bring back cash bail, enforce immigration laws, and quash whatever wokeness he thinks has infected the DC Metro PD. Right, and then you had Trump going on this tough on crime rant, but it also ended with trans people.
See, they fight back until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. And then they start spitting in their face. And I said, you tell them, you spit and we hit. And they can hit real hard. And they're told, don't do anything under any search of this, and you can see they want to get at it. The Democrats are weak on crime because they have no idea what they're doing. That's why they want men playing in women's sports. That's why they want transgender for everybody transgender.
And all of this is, in his press conference, Trump didn't just go after DC, he gave a warning to other major cities.
But then I'm gonna look at New York in a little while. Let's do this. Let's do this together. And if we need to, we're gonna do the same thing in Chicago, which is a disaster. We have a mayor there who's totally incompetent. And I look at LA, but hopefully LA is watching. That mayor also.
Now, in response to all this, you had the Democratic Mayors Association putting out a statement saying if Trump actually cared about reducing crime, he would have made unprecedented cuts to public safety programs that actually work, saying if Trump actually cared about our communities, he would be working with our cities, not against them. But the truth is, Trump doesn't care. He only wants to create yet another political charade to serve his own interests and distract Americans from his failures. With DC Mayor Bowser saying in her own press conference this afternoon,
"We know that access to our democracy is tenuous. That is why you have heard me and many Washingtonians before me advocate for full statehood for the District of Columbia. We are American citizens. Our families go to war. We pay taxes and we uphold the responsibilities of citizenship. And while this action today is unsettling and unprecedented, I can't say that given some of the rhetoric of the past, that we're totally surprised. If people are concerned about the president being able to move the National Guard into our city, the time to do that would have been when the Congress had a bill that it could have given control of the DC National Guard to DC.
And notably, she's been relatively deferential to Trump so far during his second term. During his first term, she was much more defiant with her painting Black Lives Matter on a street in front of the White House during the 2020 protests, for example. Whereas in March of this year, she ordered the Black Lives Matter Plaza mural removed after Republicans threatened to withhold federal funding. And as recently as last week, she actually expressed her eagerness to work with federal authorities on reducing crime in the district, though at the same time denying Trump's claims that crime was out of control. And with all that, you had a source telling CNN that Bowser sees a little upside in creating rifts with agencies by opposing Trump's deployment of federal officers. So in the meantime, it's far from obvious that the residents of DC are as welcoming of federal intervention. For example, a survey from last April, early May, finding that 71% felt that Trump was getting too involved in local DC issues, while just 11% said he wasn't getting involved enough. And so for now, while things are looking pretty heated in the Capitol, and we're gonna have to keep our eyes on this, whether you live there or not, I'd really love to know your thoughts and reactions to this news, especially as you have Trump trying to make it pretty clear that while DC may be used to make an example, it would not be limited to DC in the future. And then next up in the news, it's raining dildos at WNBA games. And while that bizarre sentence is where the story starts, it somehow gets even weirder from there. Because all of this, it began on July 29th when someone threw a green dildo at a game between the Atlanta Dream and Golden State Valkyries. And there you had the person accused of throwing the toy since being arrested, and one player telling reporters,
I mean, first of all, it was super dangerous, and then when we found out what it was, I guess we just started laughing. Never seen anything like that.
But since then, the WNBA has only seen more and more dildos. Or with similar incidents happening at games in Chicago, Los Angeles, Phoenix, and New York, with sex toys sometimes reaching the court and sometimes just hitting people in the crowds. I mean, in New York, the sex toy hit a 12-year-old girl in the leg, with the NYPD saying that they're looking at this dude in a Beavis and Butthead shirt as a suspect. And while some, initially laughed and rolled with it, the more that this has been happening, the less funny that, at the very least, players have found it. With, for example, the Indiana Fever's Sophie Cunningham writing, "Stop throwing dildos on the court. You're going to hurt one of us." And Elizabeth Williams of the Chicago Sky, also saying,
It's super disrespectful. I don't really get the point of it. It's really immature. Whoever's doing it just needs to grow up.
Right, and you also had the WNBA releasing a statement after it happened the second time, saying the safety and well-being of everyone in our arenas is a top priority for our league. Objects of any kind thrown onto the court or in the seating area can pose a safety risk for players, game officials, and fans. And adding, in line with the WNBA arena security standards, any fan who intentionally throws an object onto the court will be immediately ejected and face a minimum 1-year ban, in addition to being subject to arrest and prosecution by local authorities. Right, and in addition to the arrest after the first incident in Georgia, you had an 18-year-old man being arrested for throwing a dildo in Phoenix, with reports saying that the sex toy there hit a man in the crowd and possibly his niece as well. And so, with this, you may be wondering questions like, who is behind it? Is there a serial dildo throwing group at WNBA games out there? And well, at the very least, I'll say there's a person who claimed to be behind the spree of events, speaking to multiple outlets on Thursday and Friday and saying that this is actually part of a crypto promo. Right? Well, you have many seeing this as simply a sexist prank targeting female athletes. You had that person telling USA Today, we didn't do this because we dislike women's sports or some of the narratives that are trending right now are ridiculous. Creating disruption at games is it happens in every single sport, right? We've seen it in the NFL, we've seen it in hockey, fans doing random things to more or less create attention. That person then going as far as to call it a protest against the toxic nature of the crypto world being dominated by influencers and scammers, with there being a coin reportedly called the Green Dildo coin, and that source, while not revealing their identity, simply going by the name Lieutenant Daldo Rain. And as far as that coin, it apparently started trading on July 28th, which is the day before the first dildo was thrown, with that source telling ESPN it was more or less like an opportunistic approach to, what is already trending. Where is there already controversy, and how do we intercept some of that? So there, while he said that the second person arrested was in fact affiliated with the group, he said that the first person arrested was not and did not throw the sex toy. We then also didn't say who did throw it. But then the final aspect, or maybe even twist to this story, involves not investing in crypto, but betting. Right, and that because there are places out there like Polymarket that are letting you bet on whether or not dildos are going to be thrown at upcoming WNBA games. And as of this morning, there's over $500,000 in betting volume, with people thinking there's a 7% chance it happens tonight and 14% saying that it happens tomorrow. Right, and all of that is notably the person who claims to be behind this saying they were going to be switching their stunts up and moving away from WNBA games, so that's potentially why the odds are so low. But just the fact that this is happening has people noting that this seems ripe for abuse. Right, this isn't, I think Travis Kelce is going to get over or under 7 catches. You and I, we can't really have an impact on that. But what's stopping a person from betting that a dildo is going to be thrown and then either doing it themselves or having someone else they know do it? And it's not like I'm the first person to say something like that. Last week you had someone saying this is precisely what Polymarket and other prediction markets should not be doing, saying these markets are designed to be self-fulfilling prophecies. Cost of a WNBA ticket plus dildo is less than $50, penalties if caught are a few days in jail and $1,000 fine. Do the math on market volumes. And this is an irresponsible market that directly leads to antisocial behavior. With all that said, we'll see what happens. And in the meantime, I'd love to know your thought, whether it be on the betting aspect or just the fact that this is happening at all. And then I've got more news you need to know in a minute, but you know what's wild? You miss one credit card payment and suddenly you're public enemy number one. But banks rake in billions off late fees like it's a game. And you know what? It is a game. It's one that's rigged from the jump, and the house always wins unless you flip the board. And that is where today's sponsor, PDS Debt, comes in, offering a way out of the trap. Credit cards, personal loans, medical bills, PDS helps real people ditch real debt. No minimum credit score, no judgment, just a personalized plan made by actual humans who get it. And they've already helped hundreds of thousands break free, and it's not just me saying it. PDS Debt is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, and they've got thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot. So yeah, the system's a mess, but you don't have to stay stuck in it. But if I still needed it, PDS Debt is where I'd go. Simple as that. You're 30 seconds away from starting to get debt free. So get your free assessment and find the best option for you right now at pdsdebt.com/DeFranco, or scan that QR code. That's pdsdebt.com/DeFranco, and the QR code's on screen. So scan that thing and take the first step. And then next up, we've got to talk about how this deadly shooting at the CDC has staff demanding action not only on security, but on the lies that they say are fueling the violence. Because over the weekend, there was a shooting at the Atlanta headquarters for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. At around 5 p.m. on Friday, you had police in Atlanta receiving a 911 call about an active shooter at the CVS across the street from the CDC office. Dozens of bullets reportedly hitting the exterior of at least 4 CDC buildings, damaging the windows and walls. Right, we know that the shooter initially tried getting into the CDC buildings, but was then turned away by security before going